Good evening, everyone. I want to start with a question. What would you do if your job was slowly killing you and your employer knew all along but said nothing? That's the story we're exploring tonight. It begins in Newark, New Jersey, around 1917, with a factory full of young women painting tiny glowing numbers onto watch dials. They were told it was perfectly safe. They were told the glow was a perk. By the time they learned the truth, it was already far too late. Their story is tragic, but it's also one of extraordinary courage. Here's the journey we'll take together. We'll start with the discovery of radium. This so-called miracle element captivated the entire world. Then we'll meet the women themselves, the ghost girls who painted those glowing dials and literally radiated light after their shifts. We'll look at the deadly technique that poisoned them, the massive corporate machinery that covered it up, and the incredible legal battle they fought. A battle that changed the future of workplace safety in America. Let's dive right in. Picture Paris, 1898. Marie and Pierre Curie have just isolated a brand new element, radium, and it glows with this soft, ethereal blue-green light that seems almost magical. The world goes absolutely mad for it. Doctors hail radium as a cure-all for cancer and tuberculosis. It starts showing up in everything: face creams, drinking water, even children's toys. Nobody, and I mean nobody, was asking whether it might also be dangerous. That question wouldn't surface for another 2 decades, and the delay would cost dozens of young women their lives. And here's where the story gets truly surreal. The women painting those watch dials would finish their shifts literally glowing, their skin, their hair, their clothes, all radiating this haunting, ghostly light. So what did they do? They embraced it. They'd deliberately wear their best dresses to the factory so they'd shimmer at the dance halls that same night. Some even painted radium right onto their teeth so their smiles would glow in the dark. They were called the Ghost Girls, and they had absolutely no idea they were being poisoned with every brushstroke. The technique was called lip pointing, and it was devastatingly simple. Each woman painted 250 to 300 tiny watch dials every single day. The brushes were camel hair, and they'd lose their fine point almost immediately, so supervisors taught the women to put the brush between their lips, give it a quick twist, and keep painting. Swallow after swallow of radium-laced paint, hour after hour, shift after shift. There were no gloves, no masks, no safety protocols of any kind. The company actually encouraged the practice, assuring everyone it was completely harmless. And honestly, you can almost understand why nobody panicked at first, because radium was being marketed as healthy. It was in face creams that promised eternal youth, in cough syrups you'd pick up at the corner pharmacy, in tonics you'd drink with your breakfast. There was even a best-selling product called Radithor, literally just radium-infused distilled water, marketed as an energy booster and cure-all. The irony is staggering. While these factory women were dying from industrial exposure, the rest of America was happily buying radium products over the counter. And then in the early 1920s, the first women started getting sick. And I don't mean a little sick. Their teeth were falling out, their jawbones were literally disintegrating from the inside. Some developed agonizing bone cancers so rare that their doctors had never encountered them before. One after another, these young women, most barely in their 20s, were dying slow, excruciating deaths. And here's the devastating truth. The company executives already knew exactly what was causing it. Let me walk you through the timeline. 1917, the Newark factory opens, and business is booming thanks to World War I demand for glowing instrument dials. By 1922, the first dial painters begin falling ill with symptoms nobody can explain. 1923, the first lawsuits are filed, but the women struggle desperately to find a lawyer willing to take on a case with zero legal precedent. Then in 1927, 5 courageous women, led by Grace Fryer, formally sue the United States Radium Corporation. And in autumn of 1928, the company settles. Before a jury can even deliberate, they wanted this whole thing buried. And here's the part that truly stings. Internal memos from USRC senior management, which later surfaced as evidence, proved they knew about the dangers for years. The company had actually commissioned a study from Harvard's School of Public Health, the Drinker Study, which confirmed the link between radium and the women's illnesses. And they buried it, suppressed the results completely. Meanwhile, they publicly blamed the victims, accusing them of poor hygiene and even moral weakness. They chose profits over people, fully aware of what they were doing. Kate Moore, who wrote the definitive book on this story, captured it perfectly. She said the Radium Girls were the very first people in the world to reveal the dangers of small, cumulative radiation doses. Everything we understand today about radiation safety inside the human body, the protocols in nuclear plants, in hospitals, in research laboratories, it all traces back to what these women's bodies taught us through their suffering. They paid for that scientific knowledge with their own lives, and that debt can never be fully repaid. $10,000. That's what each woman's life was valued at in the 1928 settlement, plus a $600 annual annuity, about $12 a week for the rest of their lives. That's roughly $190,000 in today's money. But here's the gut punch. All 5 of the Radium Girls who brought that lawsuit were dead within just a few years. They didn't get to enjoy whatever small compensation they won. They died so that future generations of workers might live, and that right there is the core of their legacy. So why does this story matter today, nearly 100 years later? Because every time you see a workplace safety poster, every OSHA regulation, every legal protection that says your employer cannot knowingly expose you to deadly hazards, that protection exists in part because the Radium Girls refused to stay silent. Their bones, quite literally, glowed in the dark even after death, a haunting piece of evidence that helped scientists understand internal radiation for the very first time. Their story isn't just a tragedy from the history books. It's the reason your workplace is safer today, and that's a legacy worth remembering. Thank you.